What's going on, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Chart Guys Lamont here, covering for Lori to do the market recap as she's, well, occupied. So let us get into it, shall we? All right, so heading into FOMC tomorrow, not too surprising that we've seen a bunch of sessions with balance right now. And what the market is trying to resolve is this structure over here. So this is really the key demand. After breaking down and leaving this supply overhead, the buyers with an initial defense of this demand zone over here, have since failed to hold above it. And you'll notice the high of the day for the last four sessions was made pretty much right off of the value area high of this structure here. So again, the market is just affirming its significance to us right now. So the question is, okay, well, are we going to fill this gap and try to get to the next area of demand lower? Or will these buyers be able to find acceptance over the point of control at 544.72 and then flip this guy back into demand by finding acceptance over 550.12? Okay, so that's pretty much it. If you zoom out, there's a lot more volume traded a little bit lower here at roughly, just give it a second here, at roughly 529, and the daily time frame would probably be just flirting with oversold conditions coming into that high volume area. So if there's a bearish reaction to FOMC tomorrow, personally, I would be interested somewhere around here. Probably, I mean, we'll see what the setup is like once we're at 534, but there's a lot more volume at 529. All right. So that's it. That is it. Daily lower high has been set at the high of today, and it is 547.34. That's it. All right, heading into, switching over to the Qs here. Let me just hide this for a second. Okay, so the Qs also, you have this like much higher volume area, just a little bit lower here. I think it's like 440-ish, 437, call it 438. There's a lot more volume. The shelf kind of starts around 446. So similar situation to SPY. I would prefer a negative reaction to FOMC tomorrow and then get things extended into this high volume area, because that's extension into location is really, that's really it for me. For the most part, that's really all that I care about. So for example, if you were to look at this low, which was the last play, was it this one actually? I think it might have been this one. What was this? It was just a back test of a very high volume area, right? So you had short term. It was this one actually. I played this one. It was the monthly higher low. Yeah, it's back here. So all right, well, what was that, right? That was just an extension into this area of demand, right? And there was a decent amount of volume traded there. It only got back down to its highs before it made a move higher. So that's what I'm looking out for. Does it have to shake out like that? No. If it doesn't shake out like that and buyers see strength instead of weakness, I'm still gonna be patient on this, unless if we're looking at the SPY. As long as we get over this guy, then I'm thinking it's very reasonable to be playing for longs, looking to test this area of supply. But until that happens, I'm not too interested in any kind of buying. So either deeper, get things extended, be aggressive, or let these buyers show up a little bit, break over this area of supply left behind, and then look for higher low plays then. All right, so the daily trend for QQQ is also bearish, lower highs and lower lows. Key lower high resistance is over here at 467.91. And you can see right now this area of demand is continuing to be reactive, right? With pops, or rather drops, into and under the value area high, not seeing follow through down to the point of control, and thus this structure is still acting as demand. However, these buyers got to get back over this guy, right? Starting with breaking over the daily, rather starting by getting back over the lows of this structure, 471.29, and then the next objective will be the daily no change level, 473.94, and then of course finding acceptance over the point of control. Then you could say these buyers are trying to pick up where they left off. That inability to hold over this demand zone was the key change, and so if they can get back over this demand zone, then they really just have this supply left in the way. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Moving on to the Dow. So the Dow potentially looking for a daily lower high as well. You'll notice that you're pulling back roughly off of the lows of this kind of 3-day balance over here. So there's probably an hourly structure. I bet if we were to mark it up, there's probably, it's actually not really that much balance. Like, it doesn't look super clean. It would have to be this guy, but whatever. I'm not even gonna bother marking it up. So the way that I'm looking at it is potentially a lower high under 413.86. It's got to break under 398.08 to change the daily trend bearish. I mean, technically you got a little daily lower high and lower low here, but then you break right to higher highs again. So I'm just looking at this as one move down. So if you lower high and lower low, then it's right back to eyeing this guy. This guy is sitting on top of all of this balance. And so you can see how this area here was problematic over here and over here. And then once they get back over, holding back test of the value area high, not even coming down to the value area high, affirms this guy as demand. And so the goal for these buyers is to just keep holding over this guy. So we shall see. I don't really trade the Dow. This is just a setup for those weekend updates or whatever. Like, I think early oversold conditions coming into the highs of this higher volume area is reasonable. All right, moving on to the small caps IWM. So for IWM, it's pretty similar to the Dow, where we're really just caring about whether or not they can hold over the back test of this range. So this was a good amount of time, like months of balance now, roughly 6 months of balance or so. And finally, we've broken above it now. And if you've watched the weekend update videos or you're part of our community, you know I've been playing off of these two guys for seemingly forever now. This play was shared publicly in the weekend updates, and we made some plays in here as well. But if you have no position now, I think the best value is to look for backtest of this guy, right? You can see how this structure over here made for plenty of lows, right? This low and this low and this low and this low. And then a bunch of highs over here and that low, and then this high over here. And then when you come back into it, way later, again, it's problematic for these buyers here, right? Resistance here, resistance here, resistance here. And so I would be surprised if we didn't come back and test this. That's kind of just how IWM works. It balances for a long time. It balances for a long time. It breaks down. It backtests that area. It balances for a long time. It breaks down. It backtests an area. And it just kind of goes back and forth quite a lot on larger time frames. So I'm personally looking for that. That's where I think there's the best value. I already have a position, so if you want to be a bit more aggressive up here, I think what you're looking to get done is like breaks under 217.38 that don't see follow through. Ideally, you'll have like shorter term extension on the hourly at least. And yeah, that's I think a more aggressive approach. Personally, I'm waiting to backtest this guy, and if we don't get it, we don't get it. It's whatever. Weekly time frame is it's the intermediate guide. There's a lot of space for a higher low over 197.41. So I think it, we can just continue to look for some laggard action in the small caps. Moving on to the dollar here. So dollar, really very little change, or you could say no change ever since 2022. So Q4 2022, this area of supply was created. And then since this guy from back in 2020 has been supportive of price, so really there's no change until we either find acceptance under this 2020 structure or over this 2022 structure. That being said, it is notable that these lower lows are not really seeing that much follow through, because the goal for the sellers now should be to respond in kind. After rejecting from this supply, they should be trying to get back down to backtest this demand. On the way down, they have these local structures that were created on the way up. So these are the problems in the way right now. So despite the fact that you do have a daily higher low and higher high, so far there's not really a lot of acceptance back under this, back over this breakdown level. So this change has not yet been negated. So, you could call it what it is. You're in smack dab in the middle of range, but buyers are trying their best to play defense off of this structure, not even allowing a break under 103.315, but they got to get over 104.475 to have a go at testing this key supply, which is really just under this key supply, right? This is really the one that we care the most about. So that's pretty much it for the dollar. The asset buyers would probably just prefer if we just continue to just trade sideways, right? And not really do much of anything, because even if you start to dump or rip in this range, as long as you don't violate these two structures, there's really very little change. We don't really have to think about the dollar much, right? Like if it starts to rip, okay, that may be problematic for asset buyers, but as of right now, as we're still range bound, no biggie. Okay, so the VIX is also notable. So this is the 2023 low. Basically, as long as you're holding over this 1544 level, then there is a higher volatility environment compared to the rally off of that October low from back in 2023. So this is notable. This is starting to be a decent amount of acceptance over this 1544 level. You can see how I just have this alert set for once per bar. I just want to get a gauge for where we are. I think if we look at the fear and greed index, is probably flirting with fear now. It's probably well into fear a little bit. Just flirting with fear. So, this kind of fear, I think overall, it's still really low. Right? Typically you expect the high VIX to be like 30-ish. We're still really far away from that. So I'm just continuing to monitor 1544, right? That's really it. People probably hedging, into FOMC. Makes sense. Moving on. That's. I mean, I guess we could cover NVDA, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. I guess I don't know what Lord covers. I forgot to check before. But this is what I cover for the weekly video. So for NVDA, obviously it's a big part of the SPY. It's semis in general. We kind of want it. You kind of want to see semis lead tech. So how NVDA and how SMH in general are doing is always notable. So this is notable, right? It's the first daily oversold conditions in quite some time. I would consider this a back burner trade setup. Just a little bit lower, you're going to have this extension into this location. I think this is a very interesting location here for aggressive buyers. I would make it a little bit deeper, and then, I'll probably look to add. I have a, really long term position. I don't even know. It's like 28 average or something like that. I don't know. Either way, I like this setup. It's a lot, right? Because it's the first time it's been daily oversold since it didn't even get daily oversold here. So it's the first time it's been daily oversold since September 2022. If we do get a bit lower, I'm definitely going to be interested in a bit of a risk reversal. I'll probably buy some shares. I'll probably sell some cash puts and, position like that. So that's pretty much, I got a cover call. That's what this alert is. But I mean, this is like a pretty much bread and butter. Look at all this volume traded here. It's a ton of volume traded here. If you can get extended into this 90 level, I think it makes a lot of sense. All right, so that's pretty much it for Bitcoin. I'm still watching the same exact thing for Bitcoin. It's really all about this structure back from 2021. As long as we're holding over the point of control of that structure at 6100.3.36, well, then that structure is being affirmed as demand. These buyers are pretty much, they're in really great defensive posture, just like kind of flirting at like the 5-yard line essentially, but can't seem to get into the end zone here. Got to break over 73835.57 with acceptance in order to leave this forever consolidation pattern. I mean, you call it for what it is, right? The buyers are playing great defense by not letting the sellers negate this breakout by getting back under 53,000, but they're just trading sideways. All right, that being said, there's a good amount of space now for a weekly higher low. Anything over, let's see, anything over 53499 is going to be good for one. So it's a pretty interesting trade setup. I wouldn't mind looking for a bottom fishing play down here again, even though I am shifting my focus more so towards Ethereum, but the ETF news not really seeming to drive much in the space right now. I think there's just like more attractive stuff to trade, like if I'm being honest, right, compared to crypto. Like why, crypto is hot when it's like, pumping, right? Like when people have this kind of fervor, this like speculative fervor, right? It's really when crypto gets hot. Right now, a lot of that speculative fervor is really just in the traditional market. So I think that's probably why, there's not that much going on in crypto. I think if we're like starting to approach the end of like an overall market cycle, then crypto probably starts to light up a little bit. But either way, this trade setup was shared weeks ago. I forget, on one of the weekend videos, probably on this day, June 30th, if you want to go back and look at the logic of this setup. But in a nutshell, it's really just looking to hold over this structure over here, because as long as we're holding over this structure over here, then we should expect price action similar to this. And so it was also based off of this local demand zone. And basically, you should be interested in bottom fishing this range as long as this local demand zone is holding, and especially if this breakout has not yet been negated with the sellers finding no acceptance on 2717.89. It's this guy. All right, so that is pretty much it. And I think Lori will be back in action next week. I think you're gonna get a treat with Dano tomorrow. I think Funko on Thursday. So if you found any of that helpful, if you wouldn't mind hitting us with a like or subscribe, we would appreciate that very much. Costs you nothing, helps us out a bunch. Otherwise, I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and I hope to see you next time. Farewell.